Good morning. Thanks for being here. If I've not had the chance to meet you, my name is Rich Doring. I get the privilege of being one of the pastors here at Real Life. Share a message with you today. We're in school's out for summer. How about that? So, there's an old song about that. I'm not going to sing it. Which means it's the time of vacations. So I want to talk to you about living out of a suitcase. So I have a horrible habit. I'm given every opportunity every time we stay at a hotel or an Airbnb or wherever to break that habit. Do you think I break the habit? No, I don't break the habit. I've always been dumbfounded when you walk into a hotel room and there's a dresser. And I'm thinking, do they really think that I'm going to unpack all the stuff out of my suitcase and put it in this dresser for one night? Now, here's the thing. I know that some of you do that. And I don't judge you. You just aren't allowed to judge me. Okay? I have a really hard time not living out of the suitcase. Why? And this is the Rich Doring rhythm. You put the suitcase on the floor. There's your stuff. It's just right there. It's all in one contained spot. Maybe you're there for like 2 or 3 days. Still not going to unpack and put in that dresser. I'm going to pull out what I need, wear it, take it off, and then you have the pile, right? There's the pile. There's the no-go pile anymore, and you dive back in. And you think, and then, you know what you have to do then? You have to fold all your dirty stuff to put it away if you stay with your wife. If you're not with your wife, you can just shove it all in there and zip it closed. But why do we do that? Why is that? Because there's this temporary aspect to this, right? It's like this idea, why would you do that if you know you're just going to turn around and have to carry that suitcase right back out the door? Why would you unpack it? Why would you put it in the dresser? And so I think sometimes it's because that we live in such a temporary society that nothing feels permanent, okay? So it's kind of nice to have an escape plan, isn't it? So you don't stuck or anything. And that packed suitcase kind of gives you that sense that if anything goes down, you can take off. Or hopefully someone will rescue you and you didn't have to get all your stuff out of the dresser and put it back in the bag. I say that because I want to introduce you to a group of people. These people found themselves somewhere that they didn't want to be. They weren't invited to where they were. They were taken to where they were, but they were stuck. They were stuck in a place, and the question for them really in that moment was, do I unpack or do I put my suitcase by the door? Do I unpack this thing and stay? Or do I put my suitcase by the door? And then the correspondence arrives. They're really excited because they're waiting for the news to come that tells them it's okay if they go. Or somebody's going to come and take them and they don't have to be there anymore. And they're super excited about this and the correspondence comes. But as soon as they hear the correspondence, they hear exactly probably what they were not thinking they were going to hear. At least probably not what they wanted to hear. And the year is 597 BC. Now, there's this guy, his name is King Nebuchadnezzar. It's an awesome name, first of all, for a horrible human being. He was just a horrible, horrible human. King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon. Okay, he's the most powerful, he's the most rich ruler on earth at the time, and super, super cruel. And he had just done something that honestly is just really, really smart and strategic. He desired to destroy Jerusalem. But instead of destroying Jerusalem, what he did was he took their best and their brightest. He took their priests, he took their scribes, he took their leaders, their religious leaders, their governmental leaders. He took all of the best and the brightest, and he exiled them to his place. He brought them 900 miles east to Babylon to reside there. And it's a really smart move because what it did was it destabilized Jerusalem. It's pretty smart. So if I want to take over Jerusalem, if I want Jerusalem not to be there anymore, I'm going to destabilize it. And all of those resources now are going to be pulled into my place. So it's kind of a smart move. So what we have is the time of the exiles. These are Israelites who now are exiled in Babylon. Exiled. Now what they find when they show up is not a prison camp. I don't know what you think of when I think of being taken 900 miles from my home and put somewhere. I'm not thinking It's this great bougie place. I'm thinking prison, right? It's not prison. It's the most cosmopolitan place on earth at the time. Okay? It's amazing. Hanging gardens, temples to gods that are all over, and they're beautiful. So these Israelites find themselves in an alien city. It's not their home. It doesn't smell like home. It doesn't look like home. It really doesn't believe like home. So what it is they are foreigners in a foreign land, and their bags are packed waiting by the door. Because they're like, surely this is temporary. Surely this is not going to last forever. So they wait. They wait for a word from God that this is about to end, that this is temporary. Somebody's going to come get them. And they have reason to believe that this situation that they're in is going to be temporary. Okay, 2 years, maybe even less, or some prophets that are back in Jerusalem are sending messages. And they're saying, hey, this is a short stint. Don't worry. Somebody's going to come get you. Don't panic, and all that kind of stuff. The problem is they were false prophets. They're wrong. They're just telling people what they wanted to hear. It's super easy to create a following if you tell people what they want to hear. And that's exactly what they did. And in the chapter before this passage that I'm about to read for you, these false prophets in Jerusalem, they get called out for doing this, claiming to be on God's agenda, but in the end, they're catering to fear and discomfort and restlessness. And so into this mix comes the prophet Jeremiah, the weeping prophet is what he's called. And this is his message. This is what he shows up to these people who have their suitcases by the door still packed. This is what he says in Jeremiah 29, 4-7. This is what the Lord Almighty, the God of Israel, says to all those I carried into exile from Jerusalem to Babylon. Build houses. Settle down. Plant gardens. Eat what they produce. Marry. Have sons and daughters. Find wives for your sons and give your daughters in marriage, so that they too may have sons and daughters. Increase in number there. Do not decrease. Also, seek the peace and prosperity of the city to which I have carried you into exile. Pray to the Lord for it, because if it prospers, you too will prosper. Can I translate that? Unpack your bags, man. You're here for a while. Plant a garden. Raise your children. Seek the shalom of Babylon. We've talked about shalom a little bit before. Shalom translates as peace. In Hebrew, shalom carries the weight of everything flourishing the way God intended for it to flourish, as it was intended to be. It's an idea of wholeness and goodness for all. And God is telling these displaced, grieving, disoriented people to give themselves now to the flourishing of the place that they didn't choose to be. Okay, now, they're doing this, and God's saying to do this, not because Babylon deserved it. Babylon was not a great place, okay? But because that is who his people are, and who his people are supposed to be, wherever they find themselves, for however long they find themselves there. They are to seek the prosperity and peace of the place that they live. Invest in it. Pray for it. Be genuinely present in it to flourish. There's a guy named Scott Daniels. He wrote a book, it's probably maybe almost 10 years now ago, called Embracing Exile. He's now a general superintendent in the Church of the Nazarene. Back then he was a pastor. And when he wrote Embracing Exile, he wrote it to talk a little bit about just kind of where we are in America right now as Christians. And it's this idea that there's this displacement that has taken place. Now, he would admit it, and he's talked about this, and I would tell you the same thing. The metaphor, the example, the analogy, the comparison kind of runs off the rails a little bit, because for a true exile, you literally are displaced to a foreign land physically. We're not exiled as Christians. We may be displaced culturally, religiously, but we've not been, moved physically because of what we believe or who we are. All that to say, the reality is what he addresses in that book is really smart. For the most of the 20th century, into the 21st century, the church in America, this includes our church, operated kind of with home field advantage. The culture gave Christianity a nod. It was just kind of a part of who we were as Americans. Sunday mornings were protected. Schools and sports didn't schedule stuff that conflicted with church schedules. How many of you remember the day when I was growing up? I wasn't a church kid, but man, I knew why there was nothing on Wednesday nights from school, right? There was this kind of idea that the church held some kind of a position. The assumption was that the Christian story was kind of the background story. It was kind of the operating system by which everything else functioned. And a lot of energy now gets spent trying to reclaim that position, reclaim the place where Christianity is central and the operating system for everything to function, as though Christians have been exiled and we're trying to return to something. And I totally get that. I do. When the world around you stops reflecting your values, I think the impulse is to fight back, right? That's the impulse. But Jeremiah didn't tell the exiles to fight or escape. He said, seek the peace of the people you're around. He said, dwell. Make a home. Seek the peace and prosperity of the city in which you live. And I think there's something in that distinction that matters very deeply for how we understand what it means to embody the mission of Jesus in the world we live in right now. So let's talk about that. If I were the Israelites in exile in Babylon, I'd be ticked off. I'm not sure my first instinct would be to seek the shalom of the people who took me there. I just don't think that's in my personal makeup. My first instinct would be either to get them to be more like me or change my geography. How do you get out of this place? I mean, after all, God's interested in my personal comfort, right? That's his number one goal in my life, is my personal comfort, because Rich Doring is the center of the universe. And so, everything should bend my way so I feel good. But listen, I say this because when the world around you doesn't reflect your values, speak your language, share your convictions, or live from the narrative you live from, the most natural response in the midst of that is to push back on something. Push back. To fight for ground. And the church in America sometimes finds itself responding in that way. We're going to fight back. We're going to reclaim territory. And that looks a whole lot less like Jeremiah 29. It just looks like some claim for power or position or preference. And I say it because I think it matters for how we here in our place for such a time as this operate and understands what it means to embody the mission of Jesus. Jeremiah didn't tell the exiles to fight. He told them to dwell. Seek its shalom, be sacrificially present. And not coincidentally, it looks a lot like what Jesus did. The incarnation. Jesus was born, God in the flesh, came to dwell among us, the holiest person to ever walk the earth. And he spent his time at dinner tables with people that the religious establishment had written off. It was who he was. He dwelled among all people. He learned names. He asked questions, a lot of questions. He asked questions all the time. He'd walk up to people and just start asking questions. He brought healing. He brought comfort to people. He shared truth with grace. And he loved whoever he was encountering regardless of who they were. Regardless of who they were. And I was praying about this on Tuesday. I don't think that God is careless with geography. And when I say that, here's what I mean. I don't think God has you where you are by accident. You're not where you are by accident, whether you like where you are or don't like where you are, or like the people you're around or don't like the people you're around. God doesn't operate by accident. You're not where you are by accident. The same God that told a group of grieving exiles way back in the 500s to seek the shalom of a city that they didn't choose is the same God who's telling you and I the same thing. Be present. Be present. Genuinely, incarnationally present with the people in the community, on your street, in your neighborhood, at your workplace, at the gym, at the school, wherever you find yourself to be, understand that the Holy Spirit is there already working, and be present in the midst of that, and seek the peace and the prosperity of that circle, that world. And I have to be honest, I've struggled to do that. Shelley and I have talked, and in fact, it was about probably a year, maybe a year and a half ago, Pastor Ben, Pastor Travis, and I were sitting at El Pueblo. Sorry, I get excited about Mexican food. Out on Route 6, and we were having a conversation. I've been taking the church board, a few leaders in our church through some strategic planning stuff, and I had all kinds of ideas and had some stuff on paper, and I'd shared that with Pastor Ben and Pastor Travis, and we were having conversations about whether we felt like the strategic planning stuff was going anywhere and just different stuff. And actually, Pastor Ben had said to me in the midst of it, I don't know if I was sharing frustrations or what, but Pastor Ben said, Rich, why don't you just be you? Just go do what you do. So I've thought about that a lot since that conversation. What is it that I do? Obviously I'm standing up here doing this business, but who am I? What do I do? What do I do? What is Rich Doring's calling? I think one of the things that I do really, really well is be present. And I want to tell you, I'm not sure that I've done that really, really well in the last, I'm in my 6th year as your pastor. As far as being present on my street or being present in a place that isn't in these walls. And part of that's my fault. I think the dictates and the requirements of to do what I have to do, I've just not lived a life in the last 5.5 years that has afforded a lot of me to be able to do that because of all the other stuff. And so I'm reflecting, what does it look like for me to be better present on my street? What does it look like for me to be better present to my neighbor? What does it look like for me to dwell among people around tables? Sometimes people who don't get invited to other tables or any table. What does that look like? I want to ask you to think about those same questions. I think the invitation's for all of us. Wherever you are right now, the Spirit of God is there. He's been working in the lives of the people around you. Your neighbor's restlessness. Your coworker who asks you questions. That's the Spirit at work there. Or the thing that somebody said that, and you just can't stop thinking about that as you're driving home. Why did they say that? Why did they say that? Maybe it's the Spirit at work. And I'm learning in my own life that stuff's not random stuff. God's message through Jeremiah then is the same as it is today. It's the same. You are where you are. Dwell. Dwell. Seek the peace of the people that are around you. Live your life in a place and seek the best for it. A month or so ago, Pastor Ben was preaching, and he shared about how when we embrace community, it looks a lot like going out and serving others by being salt and light in the world we're in. Community together, that's what it looks like. Matthew 5:13-16, you're the salt of the earth, you're the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. Now, here's the deal. Here's the deal. This does not mean I go introduce myself to my neighbors and say, well, by the way, my name's Mr. Salty. Or you don't knock on their door and when they answer, shine the light in their eyes. Okay, that's not what this means. Salt does not announce itself. Light doesn't virtue signal. Okay, that's not how this works. They just do what they are consistently wherever they are for however long they are there. Okay? And I think a lot of us, and I'm talking about myself here, have been sold a version of mission that looks like an Instagram reel. God can use those things. I don't disagree with that, but that's not what most faithful presence looks like. Most faithful presence just looks like whatever you're doing on a Tuesday. Sometimes for me, my faithful presence in a place is sitting at a coffee shop on Tuesday morning, which is my sermon day, and I'm rubbing shoulders with people at the SIP in Hobart or wherever that I can rub shoulders with the same people consistently over and over and over again and begin to learn a name, and begin to learn a story, and begin to ask questions, and begin to even ask them, what is God doing in your life? Oh, God's not doing anything in my life. Are you sure? Because I hear something different. What does this look like for all of us? Learning somebody's name and using it the next time you see them, asking questions and listening, sitting with somebody in their pain, being present with the same people in the same spaces, seeking the best for those who are around you, giving of yourself to people, dwelling with people. That's salt, that's light. Being invited into somebody's space. Wow, that's a huge one. When you are invited into someone's space, bringing hope and light, bringing shalom. I want to tell you about somebody in this church who I think understands this perfectly. She's going to be not happy that I'm about to talk about her, which is the point. Her name is Deb. Deb. Okay, you don't know which Deb I'm talking about. You can applaud them all if you'd like, sure. Every week, this Deb that I'm thinking of places herself where people who are unhoused are. Intentionally puts herself in those places. She does not go there to fix those people. She goes there to be with them. Be with them. She recently started a nonprofit called Sprinkle Kindness. Deb, that is literally the most Deb name I can think of anything. Sprinkle Kindness. If you don't know who Deb Gloss is, Deb, I know you love me. Raise your hand. See if you want to be engaged in anything like that, just go see Deb. But literally, as I think about what it is that Deb and her little posse do, is this sprinkling kindness is peace. It's shalom. It's seeking the peace of the people that you see, that you love, that your heart breaks for on a consistent basis. Jeremiah 29 in real time. It's very, very Jesus. It's very Jesus. And as we close this, we started this year by encountering God. So can I take us a little bit on this trajectory? Going all the way back to January. You're welcome. Snow on the ground. We sat with the character of God that's revealed to us in his names. What does it mean to encounter this God who draws near to us? What does it mean to encounter this God who creates and breathes and speaks worlds into existence, who gives us life in the very air that we breathe, who loves us with an unfailing love, who seeks out his people, who doesn't lean away from us, but leans into us and desires to be with us? What does it look like to encounter that kind of a God? And then we moved into what does it mean to embrace community? God doesn't just seek us and save us and ditch us on our own. He puts us with a body of people, a body of believers, a group of people who can encourage us and challenge us and change us. And God will use those people to speak life into us. What does it mean to be that kind of community? What does it mean for you to embrace the community that God has put you in? And now we've been embracing mission. We're clearly asked by the power of the Holy Spirit working in and through us to be the body of Christ, the physical body of Jesus in the world today. What does it look like for us to love in a holy way and to live in a holy way in our world? What does it look like to ask God, what have you put into my life that you want to empower and use? What's my He-Man superpower that you want to use to impact people around me and help people? And what does it mean to dwell among people and now tend to your Holy Spirit's work in the life of others. I want to share with you a video. We have a partner church in Palmercito. I shared with you a couple weeks ago that they have something called CHE, Community Health Evangelism, that you raised a bunch of money at Christmas time. We were able to send it down there. They are training their people to go out into their community and do exactly what we're talking about. What does it look like to dwell? What does it look like to meet somebody? What does it look like to build a relationship with people? And yes, we might meet some needs along the way, but what does it look like to get into the lives of the people in your community? And I want to share this video with you. They had that training last week, and they were super excited. I love the fact that they want to Facebook Live with me and have a conversation. My Spanish is un poquito, very small, and so it's a lot of just, yeah, it's a lot of thumbs up and everything. But I just want to share with you this video. You can see all kinds of pictures and stuff, but then a really kind of special greeting from Pastor Nestor and some of their people down there at the end of this video.